everybody. Thanks for coming back to another Sketch of the Week video. I want to thank my premium subscribers. That's really terrific that you're supporting the newsletter and my work this way. I really appreciate it. If you like what you see here, please share it with somebody and see if we can get some more people on board to enjoy these videos. So, okay, we're going to come back to our Sketch of the Week series. And this week's famous movie moment is the "What's in the box" moment from the movie Seven with Brad Pitt. Now, Brad is kind of difficult to draw in a way. I've had to do him a few times for a few different things. And what I found that are really key for him is he's got a very wide bottom of a face, like his jaw. He's actually got a very square head or rectangular shaped head, but he's got you have to exaggerate something, right? And I really think the width of his jaw down below and how kind of it almost looks like he's got like giant Brando cotton swabs in his jaws. So if you've ever read my book, The Mad Art of Caricature, you know that I always start with the head shape, right? And so I want to exaggerate the mass underneath his head. So I'm going to make his head shape wider at the bottom. So I'm going to squeeze the top a little bit. That's a decision, that it's like, okay, yeah, he's got a wide forehead. He's got a real rectangular shaped face. But because I want to make I want to make that jaw the focus, one of the focuses of my exaggeration. Also those lips, right? He's got these great big, puffy sort of flappy lips, and I want to try to make those also prominent. So by increasing the space down below there, I can really see how I got room to do that, right? So he's also got a pretty small nose, and I'm going to make that nose smaller, and this whole T shape is going to end up being smaller, and kind of compacting his eyes and nose together, and that's going to help make this mouth, become even more prominent. And these kind of big lips. He's got a particularly big lower lip that really sticks out. His eyebrows. So of course, when we do these magic movie moments or whatever you want to call them, the expression is particular for this, for this moment, right? So sometimes it's an atypical expression than what you might ordinarily think is kind of typical for Brad Pitt. He's usually got that sort of crooked smile and the happy-go-lucky sort of look on his face. But in this particular scene, he's very distressed, obviously. He doesn't know what's in the box. He suspects it's his wife's head. And I'm going to draw these little bandages here, just kind of rough them in. So, the really arched eyebrows, the wrinkly forehead, and all that stuff is all a big part of this particular expression. So I'm getting a little sort of rough. He's got tiny little ears. Like Brad Pitt's got the smallest ears. I can't believe he can hear anything. He's got a really messy hairdo in this particular movie too. So let's see. I'm just going to kind of rough it in here a little bit. Okay. He's got a real puffy bottom of a face, and he's got kind of this bulging sort of mouth structure, kind of a little bit like Schwarzenegger does, where he's kind of got a muzzle that comes out. And we're going to get that. We want to get kind of this little body language here. And I want to have him pointing this a gun. So just really rough in this gun real quick. And then the hand, I got to make the hand looking like it's holding the gun. That's something that I saw somebody post the other day somewhere. I can't remember where it was, but they had asked a question on Facebook or someplace, maybe it was Instagram, of other other cartoonists, if you're drawing somebody in a chair, do you start by drawing the chair, or do you start by drawing the person and then draw the chair around them? And for me, that's kind of a no-brainer. You start with the chair. You know, you rough in the chair, and then you draw the person sitting on the chair. And this is, I'm gonna actually got kind of sloppy here, so I think I'm gonna erase this down a little bit, and then just go in and tighten it up just a little bit before I move on to the pencils. So I always like, for example, with the hand, right? I'm going to draw the gun first, and then I draw the hand around the gun holding the gun. If you draw the hand first, then you're sort of stuck with how the gun's supposed to fit into it, and it's very easy to have the gun not fit in and not just look very natural. So I always start with the object, and not a detailed drawing at all. It's just a very much a roughed in sort of a thing, just so I can get, with the gun, he's holding the handle. Now this is a very foreshortened sort of thing, so you can't really see the handle, but the handle is in here, like down here like this. And so I want to have the fingers wrapped around the handle, and you can't do that if you don't know how the gun works, and how it's really fitting. And anyway, it's almost always awkward to try to fit an object around a person instead of the other way around. And so my advice to that person would have been the chair first. I saw a lot of people say, "Oh no, you draw the body first because otherwise you end up with a stiff, looking body because you're trying to fit it into the chair." Okay, that's I kind of understand that, but it's your job as an artist not to make it look awkward, right? So it's much more important, I think, to make it really look like this hand is holding this gun than to make the hand look, really cool with all the fingers and stuff, and have it not look like it's actually holding anything. And there's just it becomes unnatural looking, right? And I sometimes give this advice, or I often give this advice to beginning drawing people, or people who are trying to get better at, making things look natural in their drawings, and that you draw through things, right? So you imagine the hand is partly transparent so that you can see that handle underneath it. And if you look at how somebody holds a gun, you can see the bottom of the handle usually. Or the grip usually sticks out. Now I'm not going to do that because it's kind of pointed forward, so I think it would be behind the fingers here. But oftentimes you see that it's definitely pointing, or your hand, it isn't completely underneath your fingers and hand. It's definitely sticking out, at the bottom. So it's kind of a thing that people forget. So this is an upward angled shot, so we're going to see more of his nostrils here than would be typical. I definitely exaggerated his nose down, gave him a smaller nose. He's got a really small bridge structure here. But his little kind of sideways mouth sort of thing is important, I think, for his expressions. I didn't want to do like the really super, anguished screaming expression that he has. That I think would get too far away from getting a decent likeness. But he has this thing where his mouth is a little crooked, and his lips are real like puffy, and they squeeze together a lot right here, and then they separate out again on the outsides. And he's got pretty prominent eyebrows, and because he has his forehead, wrinkled upward, and a kind of anguished look, they're gonna really curve up. And then he's got these pretty good sized creases in his forehead here. He's got more bandages here. And in this movie, he's got a goatee mustache thing going, so that's not typical of Brad Pitt either, but that's the character, right? So it looks like I really want to get that jaw. These little tiny ears here that he's got. He's got super messy hair. The front of it sort of sticks up, so it's going to be, when I do the final, I don't want to spend much time on this stage with it, just kind of rough it in, but it sticks up on the side, on the front, and then the back looks like it kind of lies more flat and then gets spiky just at the top area here. See how it bulges out all around behind his lip. Just, his mustache is pretty wispy. It's not really thick. It does come kind of just past the corners of his mouth, it looks like. It doesn't connect real strongly into his goatee. So just a little suggestion of it. Give it soul patch thing going on there. All right, I don't think we need much more than this to do our pencil version. So let's switch over to the drawing board and get the pencils out. All right, here we are at the drawing board, and we're gonna do our final pencil work. Have got the sketch done via the light table as I usually do, and I'm just gonna go in and do the final stuff. As I've said many times, this is really almost like inking, because the preliminary drawing that I did on the computer really gives me all the information I need, and this is just all detail stuff. So you'll notice, as I always do, I have my photo reference back up here, and I'm referring back to that when I do this final sketch, because I really want to redraw this thing. I don't want to just copy, the one that I did on the computer. But let's see. So in this particular scene, Brad Pitt's got, very sad-looking eyes, and the upper eyelids really arch upward towards the brow. He, in general, has got very thick, or at least very dark, eyelashes. And while if he had a more neutral expression, he usually has much larger eyes. They're quite squinty, or squintier, in this particular scene because of the expression. And, that's, that's something that if you're trying to capture an expression that somebody has, it's maybe atypical of what you generally consider their more recognizable expressions, then you have a little less leeway when it comes to recognizability and or likeness. You've got to make sure you got everything right, otherwise it's going to be tough to get it to really look like them. But if you're able to capture it correctly, then it can be a pretty strong caricature, even if it is an atypical expression. He's got some really strong eyebrows. But really his mouth, I think, and that's where most of his personality or recognizability comes from. These great big lips that he's got, the way they purse and squeeze together in the middle, right where the outsides of the lips happen. Everything is very kind of skewed off to one side,
And you probably notice when he smiles, if you're drawing him smiling, you'll see that one side of his smile is usually higher than the other one too. He's got a bit of a crooked, sort of lopsided grin, and that is still noticeable even when his mouth is closed like this. So another thing that's a little different about him, let's get my little, with this expression is how wrinkled his brow is. Like the inside of his eyebrows above the brow are arching upward, and that creates that, distressed, puzzled, kind of upset sort of look, and his forehead wrinkles as a result. And that's all about the expression. So you can exaggerate that stuff, As I've talked about in some of my other videos, is that there's really two types of exaggeration that you do with every caricature. One is what I call the surface, or the structural stuff, or the under stuff. And that's physical. That's like, I mentioned that he's got really tiny ears. That's something you can exaggerate, his tiny ears, by exaggerating the size of the ears even smaller than they really are. That's a physical thing, right? That doesn't change even with expression, not really. Big eyes, tiny mouths, those things can sometimes change with expression, but there are certain things that you might want to make sure that you don't skip, even with expression, unless it's really demanding that you change it. So a lot of that has to do with head shape, because head shape doesn't change, right? If somebody's got a lot of, bottom of a face, if they've got a big jaw or whatever, that's not really going to change with expression. Maybe a little bit, somebody's got like a huge smile or a giant, really big toothy grin. You may want to, and even if they've got a small mouth, you might want to exaggerate that toothy grin by, exaggerating the size of it. And so that really flies in the face of the physical nature of the person if they've got a small mouth. But you're choosing then to exaggerate what's going on with the expression, and that's the presence part, right? That's what I call the surface stuff. So actually, head shape can change as a result, because if you're going to give somebody a huge mouth, you're probably going to have to make the bottom of their face bigger, and that's going to mean you're probably going to make the top of their head smaller because you want to accentuate that difference. And so, that's funny. That's one of the funny things about caricature, is that it can change depending on what your goal is with the drawing. But I always start out, with head shape and the mass of the head, and more often than not, I'm going to keep the exaggeration choices from that level throughout. So even with the change of expression. So he's got, I've exaggerated the size of his mouth and his lips. It was easy to do because I also exaggerated the size of his jawline. So I had all that room down there anyway, and had to fill it with the mouth and lips. So it was kind of a no-brainer. But sometimes it's not as easy to decide what you want to exaggerate, what you want to don't exaggerate. It's all about what your goal is with that particular drawing. Is it expression? Is it just general, more physical caricature? A lot of different things to think about. In many different ways to draw the same person. I did a caricature of Brad Pitt. Well, I did a bunch of them for the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood spoofs in Mad, the fake TV show ones that we did, not the actual movie. But let's see, make sure I'm centered here. The choices I made there, were more straight on with Brad, because he was, didn't really look much different than himself. He didn't act much different than his usual self as the character of Cliff Booth. But I did a caricature of him in another Tarantino film called Inglourious Bastards. And the caricature I did of him in that one, it was a sketch of the week, I think, or something. Can't remember what I did it for. But he had an enormous, like, bottom of a face in that one because he was purposefully jutting out his chin and doing this sort of caricature of a, a Southern, tough guy sort of thing, drill sergeant kind of guy. And because he was doing that, it looked like he even might have had something, stuffed in his cheeks or whatever to make that look even bigger. So I really, really exaggerated the bottom of his face in that one, and it's recognizable as the character, but I'm not so sure it was all that recognizable as Brad Pitt himself. I mean, if you saw the movie, you'd probably say, "Oh yeah, that's Brad Pitt in Inglourious Bastards." But if you hadn't seen the movie, you might say, "Gee, his chin doesn't jut out like that." Well, it did in that movie, and that's why I exaggerated that. So in this movie, he's pretty much just a young Brad Pitt, but he does have, obviously in this scene, his emotions and stuff are changing his presence a bit. Let's work on this crazy hair here. I actually got a kind of a different picture of him just so I kind of see how his hair works. Another common message for anybody here who's come to this for the first time or hasn't seen too many of these videos that I do is I often talk about how you don't be a slave to reference. You can get the information you need from multiple pictures, and even though you might base your caricature on a single reference, you're going to want to have other photos that's going to help you understand what it is you're drawing, because photos can lie to you. The angles the photos are at are often deceptive, because they might make you think, oh, this person's got, a lot of forehead or whatever, but maybe they're just leaning really forward, and angled towards you. Their forehead is angled towards you in the picture. And that's going to distort your perception. It's going to make it look like they've got a bigger forehead. So it is really helpful to have multiple pictures of your subject, even though you might not. See, I kind of blew it there. This doesn't happen. It goes down on the side. There we go. When I do caricatures of, like, let's say my workshops, right? I do these posters, excuse me, that are all caricatures of the various people that attend the workshop. And I ask them to send me photographs of themselves. And I actually send a little document out that shows them what are good photographs and what are bad photographs. And it makes a huge difference. I mean, I have, in most cases, never met any of these people. And so I don't really know what they're all about, what their presence is all about or anything like that. I'm just going strictly by the information that's given to me in the photographs. So that makes it difficult to, you're really guessing in a lot of ways as to, what's the best way to approach this person's caricature. So I ask them to send me multiple photos of themselves, and that includes 3/4 views, right and left. Ideally, I'd love to have a straight-on shot or two, a 3/4 view right and left, and a profile. If I can have that for a subject, then I can do a decent caricature, even though I'm still limited by what the photographs are showing me as far as presence goes. I just have to hopefully assume that they're sending me an expression that captures them, and they're not. If they send me a photograph or a series of photographs where they look, stone cold serious, then I meet them and they're nothing but laughing goofballs. That's just bad reference. I wasn't able to get any sense of them as a person when I did my caricature. So let's go back to with it. Let's do some shading here. Brad's almost got eyes that look like he's wearing eyeliner or makeup. You know, it's very dark underneath his lids. The lower lid has got this darkness to it that looks like he's got, you know, some kind of eyeliner or something on. And he's got pretty strong cheekbones, even though you can't really see him in these photos, but I don't know how much. There's some pretty strong lighting in this one because, you know, it's outside. So maybe I'll go all out. Some cross-hatching that captures that. Side lighting. See, it's a really strong light source from this direction. Very easy to overwork your cross-hatching if you're not careful. Which I don't particularly like that look. But I try to change directions with my hatching too, so that I wouldn't say I don't exactly follow the contour of the features that I'm, you know, adding values to, but I don't do the David Levine method where it's, you know, all horizontal lines that cover the whole face, and then he does a 45-degree line in different places, and that, I mean, it's great. I mean, I love Levine's work, and there's a mechanical quality to it that isn't the kind of look I'm after. So that's not something that I usually do here, but so I'll change my direction a little bit. So he's got a little reflected light there too. And he's pretty beat up. He's got a black eye, or the remains of a black eye, really, in this area here. It's kind of supposed to be looking kind of puffy. It's got a scratch right there. So I think these lines right here are pretty spaced a little, maybe too far apart. It's getting a little messy now. I don't want to lose the quality of the whiskers either. They can get pretty lost in the middle of. I'll have to beef up some of these other lines here too, so I don't lose that. I'll have to beef up the darkness of the whisker lines here. That'll help negate some of the over hatching that I did in this area. Yeah, I didn't like that, so I'm going to take those lines out. That was a bad direction. What I really should do is just mirror this concave shape that's happening there. There's shadow right in this area, but there's still some highlight being captured right on the top of this cheek. This is causing me to have to continue to beef up these lines. I got a little bit too crazy with the cross hatching, I think, on this side, just trying to do too much with the contrast between the two sides of his face. I'll have to do the corresponding darkness in his lips here too, a little bit more. It's got a little 5 o'clock shadow, so we'll maybe do a little bit of hatching here. We don't want to, I want to keep that strong light source from that direction. I'm going to have to darken up the side of his hair here a little bit. Same with his fingers here. See all the knuckles from this middle knuckle backwards to the back of the hand is all in heavy shadow. And this whole area here is too, because the gun's cast shadow is on top of this finger and everything else. Could be a little shadow from that finger on this finger, vice versa here. Or you can get as crazy as you want with this sort of stuff. If you really want to, duplicate the exact lighting of your reference, that you probably going to end up making it look overworked, which I don't think is a good look. So we're gonna not quite go that crazy. But we're definitely going to see, like, I'm going to have to color his jacket in basically completely black without much in the line of, any kind of texture, wrinkles, or anything. But that's a good thing. You want to draw your attention to what's important in your piece of art. And obviously the face and the expression are what's most important about this piece. So drawing a lot of wrinkles and stuff in the jacket is sort of pointless. It's just taking away from some of the better aspects of the rest of your drawing. So probably just color this all in nice solid black, and once I get that in, I'm probably going to, it's gonna mellow out some of the crosshatch values, because this is just gonna be so dark. I'm probably gonna have to go back into his face and darken in some areas so they pop some of the lines around the hand and stuff. Anyway, I think that's probably far enough on today's video. So there we are, Brad Pitt. What's in the box? Moment from 7. Thanks for watching. Thanks again for being a premium subscriber. And enjoy the rest of the ink-stained wretch. See you next week.